All right, this video lesson is an introduction to solving quadratic equations. And we will be doing that in this lesson by factoring. Okay, so let's take a look. Just a little bit of review of what we were working on previously. First of all, remember that we were factoring trinomials. Okay, so if we were to factor the following, remember we used the X game. So we did something like this, and we had to find the factors of A times C, which is 6, or 1 times 6, which is 6, that equaled B, okay? Now, where am I getting that from? Let me just remind you that we have the quadratic function ax squared plus bx plus c, all right? So primarily, when you hear me talk about A, B, and C, this is what I'm referring to, okay? So we were finding the factors of C, or 6, that equal 5. And we know that 3 times 2 is 5, so we did 3 and 2. So our answer was x plus 3 times x plus 2. Now, I did that kind of fast, but this is meant to be a review. Okay, so that's how we factored that trinomial, and I'm reminding you of this because this is exactly what we're going to be doing more, or again in this lesson, but a little bit more. We're going to be solving it, but we also had these where we had to factor a trinomial where a was greater than 1, so we had to multiply 2 times -3, or a times c. We still use the X game, but actually we were using the star, if you remember, and I want to remind you. So we were finding the factors of A times C, which in this case would be -2, or 2 times -3, which is -6. So we were finding the factors of -6 that combine to equal -5, because of the B here, -5, okay? But then we were also writing our A, we were bringing our A down here. So I just want to remind you of that. We were putting our 2 here and our 2 here. And then we were finding the factors of -6 that combined to equal -5, and that would be -6 times +1. So then that's when we were writing our -6 and our 1, okay? And then we learned that these ended up being these fractions that we had to write simplified. Now, this one over here is already simplified. This one is not. 2/6 would become 1/3. So we could write that as -1/3. Of course, that was negative. So then this answer would be x, the 1x minus 3. That's the 1x minus 3. And then 2x plus 1. So 2x plus 1. All right. Now, that's a reminder, because what we're going to do now is, instead of just factoring a trinomial, we're actually going to be solving a quadratic equation. And here's what I mean. So we're going to take this original and we're going to make it an equation by setting it equal to 0 and then solving it. Well, we solve it by factoring it to begin with, and then we set each of these equal to 0. Let me give you an example. So here's x squared plus 2x minus 3 equals 0. We factored it. It's x minus 1 times x plus 3. Then we're going to set each one of these binomials set to 0. Well, if x minus 1 equals 0, then x would be 1, because 1 minus 1 equals 0. So here's x equals 1. And then if x plus 3 equals 0, then negative 3 plus 3 is 0, so x would be negative 3. So your solutions are x equals 1 and x equals negative 3. Now notice when you graph this quadratic equation, it creates this U shape, okay? This is a quadratic function. And notice it crosses the x-axis at negative 3 and 1, okay? Now we're just going to work on this part today, but I want to show you what I mean by the solutions, okay? All right, so that's the introduction lesson. Now remember that you have videos within the Delta Math assignment to help you with the assignment and to continue teaching the lesson.